Hey guys, so tonight we have some fun gear. A new scent, a new soap to me, and hasn't been used before. Valedictorian, a new release, I think around the Black Friday time frame at the end of 2020 was when this one was released, and the notes were really attractive to me, but he said that he was going to make this a permanent part of his rotation, and so I didn't snatch it up at that time. And then I ran into a sale a few weeks ago and got it at a nice discount, so even better. Then we're going to have the Stirling High Mountain White that I have definitely enjoyed on this channel before, and this is what it looks like before it gets wet. Wonderfully soft, big old brush. And continuing on with the single edge shaving, back with the Blackland Sabre again, level 2 base plate, and the PTFE blade. Always recommend those blades with these types of single edged razors. I do have a couple of vintage single edge coming soon. I think it's called a Treat. It's the 1912 variant made by Treat, and we will assemble everything here. And I'm not taking any mind of whether I'm using a certain side of the blade, so it's just random. And we are getting on in uses a little bit. This will be the 8th use approximately. This is a heavy razor, and the fact that it's brushed stainless steel does give it grip when it's wet, but to be honest, when it's dry, I'm having to be a little careful with showing it to you and holding it in a way that displays it, but also where it keeps me from dropping it. Just having to be a little extra careful. It's dense. It's not a huge razor. It's very thick. All right, so this Summer Break is a wonderful soap base. This color is kind of a taupe, a very light taupe kind of color. There's some vanilla in there. It's not too much though. I'm afraid I don't have the list. This will be with me right now, so this will be a blind smelling and use. It's the general vibe here is a amber. There's a little bit of amber in there too. I did read the notes. I don't have them memorized. I know there's some water lily in there, but it was the last one mentioned. So rosewood is in there too. I can barely smell a hint of that. It's not strong from the puck. I'm a little concerned that this soap might not be strong once it's lathered either. So I should have had this brush soaking here and getting wet, but this one, it doesn't have tips that really absorb water, so it doesn't need too much soak time. All right. One thing I wanted to show you, two things. I'm going to be using the Hallows balm today after the shave, and in 2020 Barrister and Mann had to change their procedures with the post-shave products. He didn't do a balm either ever or in a long time, and as you can see, it's very wet and soupy, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's a balm, and he chose to do this instead of some kind of pump or a squeeze bottle like Stirling and other people use. And I've put it on 1 or 2 times, and it works really well. I love the smell of Hallows, and to be honest, the smell of the balm is weird, but then once you get it on your face, it switches into all the right things that I really enjoy about Hallows. He had to switch to that kind of a balm instead of the alcohol splash because of COVID and the scarcity of alcohol, being able able to buy the alcohol to use as an ingredient. The other thing I wanted to tell you was last couple of shaves I've shown off this little case, just like $6 delivered to you via AliExpress. It's got magnets up here to snap shut. You disassemble your 3-piece razor and put the handle here, the head up here, and then there's room for a blade tuck right here. And one advantage of this that I've discovered in use is that when it's closed, you can look through the side and see what razor you're dealing with. The eyeglass holders that I have traditionally kept my razors in when I travel are nice. They're taller than this by an inch or two, but they're also they collapse more than this does. But I think in general they take up more room. They don't have that see-through ability, and so you have to open up to see what razor is in there. And if I'm staying with family for a week or something like that, then I'm going to take 5 razors with me. And so if I can put them in something like this instead of something I have to open every time, then I think I'm growing to like this a lot better than I initially thought I might. Okay, so that was to inform you, but also to give my brush a chance to soak a little bit. And I will get my face wet. We are working with a 2-day shave, 2 days of growth. All right, so let's load up. This knot has a lot of space between the bristles because it's not a high density knot. I shake out a lot of the water there, and then let's just do a usual 30-second load, and we'll start at the rounding of the minute. Maybe 25 seconds. I bet that will be plenty. Well, this is the first use. Sometimes there's a little bit of a crust or hardness to the top layer, so let's just err on the side of caution. Go for 30 seconds. There we go. I haven't used this too many times, and so I believe I saw a bristle starting to come loose. I don't have a problem with that at all when it's early on in its life. If it's less than 50 or 60 uses, then they can come out even in groups of 5 if they want. Because a lot of times the knots that I choose have, I don't want some person in some factory to comb through the knots in great detail, because that means I have to pay their salary. I'd rather have a hair come out every once in a while for the first month or 2 I use it. Now with this brush, the way it absorbs water and stuff, it kind of dries out really quickly, and that's not a big problem. It kind of starts to get dry like that, and that's just no big deal. That just means we can start to add water quicker than others. Haven't used this brush in a while. Really been enjoying that B9A that I have. The prior owner of it saw, he commented that, why do you keep beefing about my old brush? And he's a big Tennessee Volunteers fan, and that's one of the reasons he enjoyed having that color orange. Well, look, I've got another orange brush. How about that? And so I actually told him that, because orange is one of my least favorite colors in general, and in terms of shaving brushes, I kind of follow that pattern as well. But the handle, I was more concerned with the knot when I bought the brush from him, and we did a trade actually. And I thought, well, the knot's the most important thing, and if I can find even if the knot's in a handle I don't find attractive, then at least I'll have the knot, right? But then I get it, and sure, it's orange, but I really enjoyed the pour. He used some clear resin, and he swirled it really well with like some iridescent orange and some maybe a couple of different orange colors. Really, really well done by Jeff Huck. So that's why I kept mentioning it, and he's probably just yanking on my chain. He's probably just teasing me a little bit. But I wanted to clarify that I was really enjoying the color, and it was kind of surprising me how pretty I thought the handle was. All right, so we've got something looking really nice here. Let's kind of pull it up and let it stretch out. Hey, not too bad. That looks pretty good. Let's do like another half teaspoon. So this is going to be 3.5 teaspoons. And then I think we'll try it out. Yeah, that's looking good. Nice slickness to it. We don't have a lot of crazy crater-like contours or anything like that. Look at that elasticity. That's good. Let's try that out. Get my face wet one more time. And here we go. Probably gonna need some more water. I can kind of feel how dry, slightly pasty it is. So I'm going to put another half teaspoon in the bowl there and refill my syringe. Keep the water toward the tips of the brush. Also, 2 days of growth will create, since there's more stubble, there's a little bit more drag with the lather and the brush. So sometimes that has a different feeling to it. I love this brush. There we go. Add another half teaspoon to the brush and half teaspoon to the bowl there. So I'm just going to homogenize this lather, make sure that it's nice and consistent. Definitely got some wet spots from where I added the water. And you can roll the brush kind of like that to get some of that side lather on your face. Big old knot right here. I was talking with somebody online, and he believes that he was saying that my lather is probably a little bit too wet and that it wasn't going to be protective. And my assertion to him was that as wet as my lather is, that makes it slick and protective. And that if you like the drier lather, I consider that pretty, I don't think that protects as well. And for me, I definitely prefer the wetter. And he kind of had an attitude of my opinion is the right one and your lather is wrong. And a lot of people, or at least that drier lathers are more protective. And I disagree with that, but I guess hasn't quite learned that there's just so much subjectivity about our hobby. I mean, I think it's kind of objective whether or not more water makes it slicker. I think that's an objectively provable fact. But what its subjective is, he just likes his lather more dry than I like mine. This is mowing through the 2 days of growth with virtually no difference. Easily taken down that growth. I'm sure you can hear the cutting, kind of that butter on toast, kind of sound. I am focusing on keeping a small blade angle, meaning that my normal angle with a double edge might be something like this, but I'm opening up the handle, reducing the angle of the blade with the skin to about as low as I can get it. And that seems to be very important for keeping with a comfortable shave for me with these single edge razors, just about every one I've tried. And since I added some water to the brush and I added a little bit of water to the lather in the bowl, let me take a second to just kind of bring everything consistent together. Get rid of any wet or dry spots. This brush has a lot of drag in the bowl, probably just because it's so big. It's a little bit more effort to move it around. And probably, I think it has to do with the bristles, the hairs being so flexible. Man, this feels so nice. The tips on that B9A are not as soft as these tips, and so it's a big difference. I mean, look how big this is splaying. It's just huge. Not for everybody. There is definitely a section of shavers out there who don't like the brushes that they like to call floppy. Yeah, I think a lot of the hair has been taken down pretty well. And so right now, it really does feel very in control, very much a kind of like a cleanup pass. I'm so glad that Shane at Blackland Razors made this razor. I was responding to something online. Guys were saying that the best way to cut hairs to reduce blade wear is perpendicular, because then you're touching less of the blade. But my contention is that if the blade is, this thick microscopically, and you come at it perpendicular, then sure, you're only using up as small of an area of the blade edge as you can. However, you're using up that for the entire duration of the hair. So it's two-dimensional. It's not just one-dimensional. It's not just how much of the blade you're using this way, but how much of the hair does it have to travel through. And that's the whole width of the hair. Whereas if you're doing a slant cut, if you've got the hair and you're coming at it this way, like that, like a guillotine might. Remember the guillotines coming down to chop people's heads off are kind of tilted to slice through. If you're doing that kind of cut, then the hair touches more area of the blade. However, less of the hair touches, it's spread across more evenly. And so my contention might be that it equals out to be about the same wear on the blade. And then also, this is just my guess, it's just an educated guess, that's all. But then also, MIT did a recent blade study on blades as they cut the hair, and they just showed microscopically how the blade comes and starts to cut the hair, and then as the hair bends while being cut, then as the blade is like halfway through the hair at the microscopic level, the sides of the hair can chip away microscopically at the blade edge as the hair bends while it's being cut. And so the hair kind of twists on the blade and then can kind of flake off some tiny microscopic pieces of the blade edge. And so I think that would be, my guess is that might be reduced if you were to come at it with a diagonal type of slice. So maybe that further helps to help with blade wear. I don't know. Anyway, there's a couple of things to think about. But so that's just, what do you think? What's your opinion? All right. Especially to the question of, if you spread it out but you have less of the blade, if you have more of the blade touching less of the hair, do you think that's about equals out to about the same? Or do you think one's more wear on the blade than the other? And rinse. This is a really nice lather. I pretty much nailed it. It's very wet, but still creamy. It's a good base. I'm very happy with that. It might be, if it had to be on one side of perfection, then I'd say it might be a tad on the wet side of that little perfect zone where I like it. But it's in a good spot. All right. Gonna go cross grain again, and now we're hearing even less of the hair being cut. So we're just kind of touching up at this point. On the cheeks, the neck I'm sure has more hairs to get, because that, I think, I'm not exactly sure, but I think maybe in my trouble spot I know we've got hairs going in different directions, but I think it also is laying pretty close to the skin. Now that stroke, you heard the loudest one coming from here and going up that way. That can give me some irritation if I'm not careful. But I tread very lightly. I was really watching my head angle to keep the blade angle very low, the handle angle pretty open, to have that blade come across at a really slicing angle instead of a steep, scrapey kind of angle that tends to irritate me. So small angle, better for me at least. And I think I'm going to end up with a nice, happy closeness here. Dang it. I'm a big fan of Summer Break. The guy is terrific who runs it. But this scent strength is so low. I'm guessing he's kind of catered it to guys who overload, and so they're going to have 3 times as much kind of scent going on as I do. It's really nice. It's warm and lightly woody, a little bit ambery. It's a really nice scent, and so I think if I had the aftershave, I would consider it very wearable, very enjoyable. But the soap, after I finished the third pass and did my rinse, I realized it hadn't been a part of my shave, the scent profile. It was so minimal that I never commented about it because it was just, and so if you like mild scents, and then, this one is going to be a good one for you. It's manly, enjoyable. It's very smooth, warm. There's nothing punchy or bitter or pungent about it, Yeah, I think his write-up said, very approachable, wearable to anything, and I do pick up kind of that vibe with it. I think it's classy, as well as sit around the fire at home, sit on the porch and just watch the day go by. I think it's at home in either environment. I just wish the soap was a little stronger. But if I ever saw the aftershave, like for sale, I would think really, I would probably pull the trigger because I really like it. So yeah, dang it, this soap a little too light for me, but wonderful, and the artwork is really neat on the cap. Valedictorian summer break. And you can tell the new base because it's got the sun here. His first base had a little schoolhouse as a part of his logo. And let's get a good rinse. I can tell the blade is starting to not be as efficient as it was in the first 5 uses. However, I still have a nice, close cut. The only almost baby butt smooth on my cheeks and over here in my troll spot area. I do see several tips with a little bit of length on them. I could probably touch it up with a kind of a pickup pass and maybe reduce those, but I don't really feel like doing that tonight. So the quality of the shave is still very nice, but I think I can see it start to back off a little bit and start to lose its keenness. So I'm very interested to see how far we can get this blade to go. Oh, Hallows now. Now where the Valedictorian leaves off in scent strength, I think the Hallows is going to, I'm just going to pull from the cap for now. I think the Hallows is going to make up for it. Oh man, that's nice. I was very happy with the comfort of today's shave. I didn't have any kind of sensation of tenderness. So I bet the blade is kind of smoothing out. I think I've got a vintage razor that I will be using next shave. Try that out. Oh man, it smells weird. And the first time I opened, I have 2 tubs of this. The first time I opened one of the tubs and smelled it, it smelled of something not good. Something in my household or something in my life that was not good at all. And maybe it was because I had just smelled something weird, and so that affected my perception of this. But in either case, even in that instance, I applied it to my face, and very soon I was enveloped in all the good stuff that is Hallows, and the oud and all the good woodiness and the pieces that he has put together for that. So I think both of these, the balm and the soap, are terrific scents. Really happy with those. Unfortunately, the soap just didn't quite have the strength for me to really enjoy it during the shave. I'd say it's a 3 out of 10 when I put my nose in the bowl. And it's probably a 2. Okay, maybe it's a 3 to 4 with my nose in the bowl. It's more like a 2 when it's just on my face by itself. And that's, I'm afraid it's just not being a part of my, kind of the environment around me. It's not being strong enough to do that. I welcome back today to that big Stirling brush, and we do have 2, maybe 3 passes of lather left, and as you can see, it is very wet, nice and glistening. It's a big comfy brush. All right, oh, I think is it Seth out there who or Mosquito that ordered one of these, and when he first got it, it just behaved differently right away. And then he kept using it and it changed. And I think it changed into something that he really enjoyed. But it was maybe a little bit too firm at first. I think I got mine used, and so I didn't have a chance to use it fresh off the factory. So maybe that had something to do with it. I'm glad he kept with it because I think he became very happy with it. And here's what this guy looks like when I have given him a good rinse and shake him out in the sink. You can see some of the tips they're not all separated because it's a little bit wet. Look how big that bloom, how wide open it stretches. Well, let's go put it on the towel. And that causes now some of the tips to kind of separate. This thing is so soft. It's huge and soft. I like it. It's my style brush. It might not be your style, and that is okay. I don't necessarily like the fact that it's huge, but I love the fact that it's soft. All right, so we're going to take my Sharpie here. I'm going to put another dot on the band of the PTFE blade. As always with this razor, because this post screws into the handle, it's stainless steel, so it's nice and strong, but as you can see, it's thin. It's thinned down to fit between in that hole in the blade. And so if you're threading on the handle and you feel it bind, then just gently screw it on, gently back it off, and then try again so that you don't cross thread. This is easy to cross thread if you're not careful. Now I find that I have a very good time generally not cross-threading and not needing to back it off, because I usually hold it this way with the spine of the blade portion down, and there's a natural angle that my hand comes in that kind of makes that bolt exactly horizontal, level. And so then I just have to make the handle level as well. And there you go. See, no cross threading at all. Perfectly. And so by doing that, it seems to be pretty easy for me to line it up. I know a few people online have mentioned that that's a little bit of a concern for them, but I don't seem to be having that problem. The water, 4.5 teaspoons with 30 seconds of loading. I think that was about right. 25 would have probably been okay too, but I think I was right to add on an extra 5 seconds, and because we had a little bit of lather left over. And yeah, the wet side of perfect, but just a very enjoyable, very slick lather that protected me well. I just didn't have a hint of irritation, no weepers, anything like that. At the beginning of this blade's journey, I definitely had an occasional weeper because it was just so sharp. It was so close to the skin that if there was a bump, it would just shear it off. And that happened once right over here. And now it's much nicer. So we'll see how many uses I get during this nice and smooth kind of phase that the blade is in. I recall Teacher's Pet being too light for me. It was a really nice apple flavored scent and some other parts to it, of course. But that one was too light for me as well. And maybe one or two other summer break scents. And this definitely falls into that category. It's really unfortunate because I find it really interesting. I would really rather enjoy using it instead of having to pass it on. But that's the way it is sometimes. The soap have to be careful about the scent strength, because if the oils in the mix are too intense, they can cause irritation with some people. And so some soap makers, in order to make their scent enjoyable by the broadest number of people, they have a lighter scent. All right, and you can't really fault them for that, especially small businesses, right? They gotta be extra careful with how they work their products. All right, well, we are in good shape. It was the Hallows. I'm just soaking in it right now. It's when I turn around and work with the towel as I'm drying things off, I get kind of fresh doses of it. It's just terrific. Really enjoy it. And of course, I'll mention that, yes, it's not an optical illusion. The base plate is the polished version, and the rest of the razor is the brushed. And I don't mind. I bought the base plate used, got a great deal on it. And I think the two-tone effect is cool. Well, that's it, guys. I hope the best for you and your shaving journey. Try out some cool stuff. Let me know how it goes. I know that HD Shaves, a friend of mine, is eagerly anticipating the arrival of his very own Sabre, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say about it. And I think we're good for tonight. Just love the brush, love the soap performance. Pretty much nailed the lather. I continue to enjoy the single edge shaving. This one was comfortable and very close all at the same time. It wasn't so comfortable that I could relax. I did need to focus on good technique because it still cuts very close. But it went very well. No irritation at all. So wonderful. You guys, take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I hope this video has got something to help you. Take care.